Been watching all kinds of YouTube stuff, or quarantined or whatever. Been looking at the idea of adding some weight to my arrows. I've watched some range spray videos, read up a bunch of stuff on there. Really great, interesting learning stuff going on. Not sure how I feel about the whole picture of it all for hunting the way I do and everything, but I do see the value in adding weight to the front of your arrows, changing your FOC, your weight overall for penetration. I've seen it work in my backyard. I can hear the difference whenever the arrow hits the target when it's a heavier arrow. I have never made an arrow before, so I've bought a bunch of these cheap ones in the past, and they're already inserted. They've already got fleshings on them, everything else. And I've wondered if there was some way to get these inserts out, to either put in a heavier insert or make some modifications. So I started looking around, there's a bunch of different ideas out there. You can take the knock off and put something in the arrow and slam it down in there, and it'll eventually pop that out. Heating on a carbon arrow, it seems like, has been questionable in some situations. So I finally found a video, and I'll try to find where I saw it at and link to it if I can. I guess there's a company that makes a tool to take your insert out, and when I looked at it, it reminded me of this, which is just a wood burner. Mine was a whole kit. It comes with all kinds of cool little inserts and stuff like that. If you don't have one of these and you do any kind of DIY stuff or whatever, they're pretty cool. They've got all different tools. You can do transfers, you can do stamps. This here is, I do some leather work, and I made this was actually a stencil transfer, so it was actually flat originally. Well, I used a Dremel and carved out GR for Grace Ridge Life. And on my leather work, I can heat this thing up in the wood burner and then just quickly touch it on the leather, and it burns in, kind of brands kind of a logo in there. Pretty cool. I'll put some pictures up with some other stuff that I did. That way, if you decide that you want to try this technique that I figured out, you won't be just buying, I don't think these are very much, but you won't be buying it for just one purpose. I'll try to put a link for this kit down in the description also. But in the end, what you're going to end up with is, actually, before we get to the end, in order to see if you have a wood burner, if this will work the way I'm planning to do this, will work for you, just take a practice tip, one of your ones for your arrows, and see if it'll screw directly in there. Mine, it screws in perfect. The threads on your arrows should be 832, which is 8mm 32 threads per inch is how that works out. It's not 8/32. There's no such thing as that, but if that works, if you're able to screw your practice tip into here, then this will work for you. I started out buying bought this bag at Walmart. Comes with 8 of them. It's 8 inch and 3/4, 8 inch and 3/4 long, 832 screws with nuts. And what I did was I took and I just cut the head off of one of them, and I put a double nut on it. And what a double nut does, just you put 2 in there back to back, and that locks them in place so then they don't spin. You put it on there and then you tighten it down really tight against each other and they don't spin. And I tried that and it worked really well. The problem I was seeing was that being that this is a steel bolt, it takes, machine screw I guess is what it is, it takes a little longer to heat up than what I would like. So today we got a 2-inch long brass one, and brass heats faster. So I'm gonna just put one of these together right here real quick and show you how it works. Safety glasses. And the old Dremel. Just using a cutoff wheel on it. I bought it like a pack of them at Harbor Freight for a couple bucks, but you could use a grinder. If you had a belt sander, I mean, I guess you could sand on it enough to get down there, but some kind of grinder to cut this off. You could also potentially, if you have access to like a fastener company near you, you could probably get this in all thread, which would then not have any head on it, and you just cut it to whatever length you want. The reason why I started with the 1 3/4 just as an experiment, and it worked really well. I've since used 1.5 inch. The 2 inch will probably work even better, but the idea would be to get your double nuts on here so you've got enough threads on one end to get it threaded into your wood burner, and then still have enough bolt left over to thread all the way through your insert, so that when you get this heat going in here, it heats up the whole insert. It should just make the process a little easier trying to get that insert out. So here we go, I'm going to cut this off. Last time I used a grinder, it cut it off in just a couple seconds. This time on the Dremel, it's definitely hotter than I would normally like to have on my fingers. I'm going to grab a pair of pliers. This should do the trick here. Keep your fingers out of the way. Gloves might be good if you had a vise or something. It might be helpful just to keep your hand out of the way. If I weren't doing this in my kitchen, I would do something like that. But there we go. Okay, after you get that cut off there's probably could be some burrs on the end. So what you'll do is just with a sanding disc or with the same grinding wheel, just use the side of it and actually kind of round that off just a little bit. It's probably going to be pretty hot, so be aware of that. The idea of what you're looking for is on your cut end, the one you just cut, the ability to screw something on it, so that way if you're trying to screw it into the arrow, or if you're going to use that end as the part that you put in the wood burner, you have the ability to thread stuff onto it, because both ends will be thread into something at some point. So once you have that rounded off enough so that you can thread it on there, you just thread both of the nuts onto the machine screw and get them right to each other at a location where, so there's some hanging out. I've got probably a little more than 1/4 inch. I might actually go a little further on this one. And then with just 2 pairs of pliers, grab each of the nuts separately and tighten them down onto each other. And what that does is makes it so that this bolt then won't spin. Then it's as simple as screwing this into your wood burner on the short end, and then you can screw your arrow into this. And this, being a 2 inch, has got plenty of length there to screw all the way up beyond where your insert would be. The other one I actually screwed onto my wood burner while it was heating up, while we're sitting here working on this. But so you would screw it in there. This would be screwed to the wood burner. Turn your wood burner on. This is where it gets a little bit delicate. You just want to keep an eye on it, honestly. You can work on a few of these as long as you're keeping an eye on what's happening with the arrow that's sitting there. And what you'll see is you'll just put a light amount of pressure pulling these two apart, and eventually it'll just come out. Just like that. So in just a couple minutes of sitting here, that came out. This is an important thing here. That is super hot. It will burn you instantly. So keep your fingers off of it. And I'm twisting up my cord doing it that way, but normally I would unplug this and just leave my cord dangling so that I can spin the wood burner easier than spinning the pliers. So just dip this in a little bit of water and you have the insert out. Now you can do whatever you want to do. If you want to put it in a heavier insert, or I have another video coming. Actually, I'm doing some testing today, so there will probably be another video coming with an idea that I had that's pretty exciting. So you have to come back and check that one out.